What fan theory do you 100% accept as true? Not sure if this counts, but Donkey from Shrek being one of the kids from Pinocchio who turned into a donkey is pretty mind-blowing. Edit. Thanks for the award. First one ever. Kevin Malone, if not actually a genius, is certainly much smarter than he lets on. Clearly he's lazy and gluttonous and blah blah blah. But after the merger with Stanford and it's revealed that Martin had served time, Kevin realizes that he needs to give plausible deniability to any sort of financial maleficence that the accountants have been doing, and flandrizes himself in front of the camera. Occasionally he slips up and reveals himself to be something a math genius, and has to backtrack and play it off as some kind of food-based idiot savant. It's how he was able to afford ownership of the bar at the end of the series. I'm sure he made a bit just cashing in all those free drinks, but actually enough to buy a bar? I don't believe it. The reason each It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia episode starts with a date and time is because they're all testifying against each other in court. The Empire Strikes Back. Admiral Ozzel is a rebel spy. Everything Ozzel does in his brief bits of screen time is to the detriment of the Empire. When the probe droid finds the rebel shield generator, Ozzel tries to dismiss it as smugglers before Pete speaks out of turn and gets Vader involved. Later, Ozzel orders the fleet out of hyperspace too quickly, giving the rebels plenty of time to activate the aforementioned shield generator that Ozzel knew about. Clumsy as he is, stupid or rebel sympathizer who gave his life to give the Alliance as much time to evacuate their base as possible? I side on the latter. Beavis and Butthead have fetal alcohol syndrome. Miguel and Tulio may not be gods, but the armadillo that follows them around absolutely is. That Loki was controlled by the Tesseract more than he let on. His eyes glowed multiple times and he shed a tear when Thor tried to talk sense into him. In Disney's Ratatouille, the old lady in the beginning of the movie living in the house next to the river is the food critic, Anton Ego's mother. In the flashback scene where he eats the ratatouille, you can see similarities of the house from the beginning. Her face and I think the bridge. That explains Remy being able to make the ratatouille that tasted exactly like his mother used to make. Jessica Fletcher killed all those people and framed others for it. No way that a lady just happens to be involved in a murder every week. The town from Footloose is the same town from Tremors. The ban on dancing wasn't a puritanical attempt to control the youth. The town elders were aware of a graboid threat and banned dancing out of the fear that it would cause rhythmic vibrations waking up the creatures sleeping below the town. Kevin Bacon's character in Footloose stayed in the town, growing up to be his character in Tremors, at which point he has to try and contain the danger he inadvertently released. The Jetsons and the Flintstones are living at the same time in a dystopian future where the Osahaves live above the clouds and the Osahave-nots are stuck on a wasted Earth. The signs include that Flintstones celebrate things like Christmas and other holidays, which doesn't make sense, and the Great Gazoo alien appears in both series. James Bond's primary purpose is to be a distraction to keep attention off the spies who actually spy. Villains and other spies know him. He rarely takes an alias. He makes his presence known early on and keeps messing up operations for the villains. But other spies have already infiltrated their ranks and work while Bond does as much visible damage as possible to keep the others safe. Little late to the game, but the theory is that the Kyber crystal in Luke's green lightsaber is the same one from Qui-Gon Jinn's. After Kenobi defeats Darth Maul with his master's lightsaber, he would have kept it as a keepsake. Despite rebuilding his own saber, it's likely he would have retrieved it and kept it with him after the Order 66 attack. After the Empire takes over, they destroy all artifacts and memory of the Jedi in their purge of changing the history. And most Kyber crystals go towards powering the Death Star. Because of this, any lightsaber crystal would have been very difficult for Luke to find after he loses the Skywalker saber. But we know he returns to Tatooine to complete his new lightsaber, likely returning to Ben Kenobi's home for components, where he would have found Qui-Gon Jinn's lightsaber and recycled its crystal. Marty McFly develops the inability to back down when called chicken in the second movie and on because in the first film, he creates a timeline where his father has confidence. Red Alert 1's Allied victory results in the Red Alert 2/3 universe. Red Alert 1's Soviet victory leads to the Tiberium universe. Semicolon. Debunked by the writers themselves, Ike. But that's how it'll always be for me. The monsters encourage the cowardly dog are regular people but see monstrous from Courage's perspective, since he's cowardly. Also they live in the middle of nowhere because his owners never take him out, so that's how he views the world. Glinda dropped Dorothy's house on the Wicked Witch of the East, or the tornado, and uses her to gain control of Oz. One of the first things Glinda tells Dorothy is that she killed the witch. They praise her so she'll accept it. And when the Witch of the West comes along, who killed her sister? Dorothy. Glinda then puts the ruby slippers on Dorothy's feet but does not tell her that she can use them to go home. Instead, she sends Dorothy to Oz in possession of objects that a witch would murder her for. Dorothy, being forced into a situation where her only salvation is Oz and her worst enemy is the Queen, inadvertently exposes the Wizard of Oz as a fraud and murders the Witch of the West. Now, who's left to rule Oz? Glinda and Witch of the North. She used Dorothy as an expendable pawn to gain control of Oz without having to leave her bubble. And when Dorothy is done upheaving the two biggest powers in Oz, the real world in the Matrix movies is just another layer of the Matrix, designed specifically to appeal to people unwilling to conform to the normal Matrix. Humans in this outer Matrix have confirmation of their belief that something was wrong, get to indulge in the fantasy of being a heroic freedom fighter against the faceless evil machines, thus choosing to accept this false reality. The anomaly of the one is that he's capable of rejecting both realities, which is the reason why he had powers in the real world. Pokédex entries are written by young trainers. When a professor sends a bunch of 10-year-olds out into the world to document Pokémon, of course the research can't be expected to be professional in the least. This is how we end up with the creepy legends of ghost Pokémon that might have been passed around as playground rumors. Or impossible facts like Makago being hotter than the actual sun. There's no reason why out of all the Pokémon professors, one of them couldn't have revised their dex information and correct the tidbit about Pidgeot breaking the speed of light or Gardevoir creating black holes or Blaziken's jumping over 30-story buildings. It's likely they leave the kids to their own devices without bothering to fact check. And kids, being kids, are going to exaggerate. Professor Oak just sent kids out on random errands so he could bang their moms. I 100% believe the two men accompanying the woman in the original Blair Witch Project planned and successfully executed a plan to murder her while they were deep in the woods. Too many factors point to good old-fashioned murder than a supernatural occurrence. Edit. I'm referring to the characters of the film, not the actors. Realized my language might be a bit ambiguous. Every Star Wars planet is like a quarter the size of Earth. How else does each planet have just one biome? I have one of my own. Buffy's mother Joyce's brain aneurysm occurred indirectly because of Dawn. Not through magic or anything directly supernatural. But she was Dawn's mother and therefore she would have the most artificially created memories, conception, pregnancy, life, thoughts, fears, etc. This caused so much real physical change to her brain overnight that it created real medical problems and killed her. This is never hinted at all in the show. That the book Rory writes in the Gilmore Girls revival is the original show, that explains why the characters are so different from the show versus revival miniseries. Robb Stark died twice. First in his own body, and second in Grey Winds. He had a chance to see Arya moments before his death. Event Horizon is a prequel to the Warhammer 40k universe. King of the Hill. Dale knew about Nancy and John Redcorn, but feigned ignorance, both to keep his home life stable, and because he knew Joseph would be raised as his son rather than Redcorn's. She cheated? Hank. I knew about Nancy and John Redcorn, I knew about them the day Joseph was born. But every day since he was born I've been taking my revenge. That boy. He loves me, Hank. He loves me. Love that John Redcorn will never get. He'll never hear his own boy tell him that. Joseph will go to his grave loving me and never so much as looking in John Redcorn's direction. His children. His grandchildren. They'll love me too. Hank. And they'll never even know John Redcorn existed. That's revenge. Hank. Just like when the former Soviet Union resurrected Lenin to cause the housing crisis in America in revenge. Anon number 90,319,350. 4chan. 2017. Willy Wonka knew what he was doing. There was no seat for Augustus aboard that boat. He knew Augustus Gloop would fall in there. Ed from Ed Ed and Eddie is mentally stunted. Which is why he's one of the dumber characters in the show despite appearing older than the other two Eds. He's about as tall as Kevin and Rolf, who are some of the oldest kids in the cul-de-sac. Also that his parents are abusive to him because of his mental handicap, literally removing the stairs when he was grounded. And his sister's attitude towards him is learned behavior from their parents. This is further reinforced by him living in the basement, having non-existent hygiene habits, and retreating into obsession with TV and sci-fi comics. In fact, the other two Eds come from troubled homes as well, which is why they're social outcasts in the cul-de-sac. It's been heavily implied that Eddie's parents knew his older brother was physically abusive to him and let it happen. Meanwhile, Double D's parents spent zero time with him, and won't even directly communicate with their son, choosing instead to leave him notes for chores instead. Greg Heffley is a sociopath. Mr. Bean is an alien. That would explain his weird behavior and why he falls out of the sky at the beginning of every episode. This is more of a personal fan theory than a common one, but the Titan in Titan A.E. was designed to be powered by consuming dredge like it does at the end of the movie. That's why they attacked Earth. The Mad Max films do not take place in a post-apocalyptic wasteland. It's just that's what happens when a bunch of Australians get lost in the desert. Sean Connery, John Patrick Mason, in The Rock was actually 007 who was captured while conducting espionage in the USA after the events of the last Bond film with Connery. Diamonds Are Forever. Then imprisoned at Alcatraz. When the Red John suspect list came down to 7 names and Lorelei recited the names, only McAllister had a prefix, Sheriff, and not any other name. This was a Reddit post a while ago actually, but the theory was, in Empire Strikes Back, when Luke tells R2 to stay in the ship at various times, he doesn't stay put. Mad Max and Waterworld take place at the same time on different parts of the same post-apocalyptic planet. They're just unaware of each other's existences. Peach is totally into being kidnapped. Dennis Reynolds is a serial killer. Dennis Reynolds is a bastard man. Thank you for starting this thread. My own theory that in The Office when Andy proposes to Angela, the people playing his parents are different actors because they are literally actors. As in he hired them to pose as his perfect parents because his own parents couldn't be bothered to come. The people in the season 9 episode Garden Party are his real parents, who clearly are dicks. Zion is a part of the Matrix. That Dora the Explorer is visually impaired. She needs the viewer's help to see something that's literally 3 feet away from her. Peter Pan kills any lost boy that grows into adulthood. Spoiler for American History X ahead. I don't know if this is a fan theory, but I always believed the boy that shot Danny was the younger brother of the guy Derek curb stomped and killed. That kid exacting revenge on his brother's killer by murdering the killer's brother speaks volumes, emo. It also ties in beautifully with Danny's final speech about hate being baggage. So I always accepted that to be 100% true. Bill Cipher is still alive inside Stan Pine's mind after the ending of Gravity Falls. The clues leading to this conclusion from fans. were so complex. They actually involved traveling to real locations and solving puzzles. The cases in Sherlock are all fake. Orchestrated by his brother Mycroft. To keep him away from drugs. Spinach is just a front. Popeye's on steroids. Sebastian from Stardew Valley is a natural redhead. And the one that is almost 100% known to be true but is not yet confirmed. Abigail's biological father is not Pierre but the wizard. Andy's parents are in the middle of a divorce when the first Toy Story is taking place. I remember asking my parents why is it just Andy and his mum, and they said well some people live like that. Owen Grady, Chris Pratt, in Jurassic World is the grown-up version of the fat kid in the opening scene of the original Jurassic Park that tells Dr. The Paw Patrol pups are part of a post-RE initiative attempting to train enhanced, but subservient, companion animals to replace the robots that almost destroyed humanity. Everyone in Adventure Bay, Foggy Bottom etc. are paid actors who place the pups in coordinated training exercises. Which is why Mayor Humdinger gets away with all his bull. Parenthood has melted my brain. Captain Picard only speaks French. But thanks to the universal translators, no one would ever know. Pepe Sylvia is just Charlie trying to pronounce Pennsylvania. Kevin from The Office is secretly involved in a money laundering scheme. I can't imagine a guy as smart as him saying so dumb otherwise. I think it's a given he is smarter than he lets on and acts dim on purpose. The episode where Oscar says he makes up a number called Cleve and he knows how to cook the books is leading on to be so dumb if a audit comes he won't even be a blip as no one would suspect him. When it comes to gambling and cards, you see in an episode Kevin do a complete 180 and sounds nothing like goofy lovable Kevin but a card shark and professional. Possibly even count cards. He loses his job but ends up with a nice severance package, but highly doubt it covers the cost to buy a bar. I'm sure he has money from the laundering he has done, and since people think he's dumb he has swindled people or casinos at card games. Tom and Jerry were friends and not enemies. Kermit caused 9/11. Not really much of a fan theory though since it's unintentionally canon. Edit. Realized this should be explained. In the 2002 TV film It's a Very Merry Muppet Christmas Movie, there's a part where an angel shows Kermit an alternate reality where he was never born. For whatever reason, the editors didn't really think about it, and continued to use footage with the Twin Towers still standing for this scene. However, they aren't there in his original universe. Therefore, something that Kermit did in his life did in fact cause 9/11 in Muppet lore. Mad Max Folktale Theory. The movies and games all have different narrators and different takes on Max because they are all stories being told by people in the wasteland. All of these great deeds and accomplishments are being attributed to one man who may or may not have ever really existed. Double Matrix Theory. The Matrix has an inner core and then an outer shell designed to give the illusion of escape. It's basically a corral where they can keep the escaped humans until the defense mechanism, the machines, can purge them. Exclamation point. This is why Neo could use his powers outside the Matrix. Why Smith could leave. And why Cypher could go in without anyone noticing. This is my own personal one. But I have a lot of fun watching Keanu movies and imagining him as Ted traveling through the circuits of time to find Bill. Pinky is the genius. Even the theme song hints at the theory. One is a genius. The other's insane. They're Pinky in the brain. Rick is Morty. And evil Morty is just a Morty that knows he'll become Rick if he doesn't deviate. Rick said I used to wear blue pants and when he's drunk he asks for redheads. Morty likes redheads. The most obvious clue to this is that Rick is completely narcissistic and doesn't care about anybody else. Yet he has an unexplainable bond with Morty. I think the creators have probably considered going there at some point. The secret ingredient is crab meat. Jesse's girl is Stacy's mom. Bran doesn't have a good story. Skywalker is the last name given to kids who are born out of wedlock from fathers who travel on spaceships. Like snow. But in space. Anakin Skywalker's mom just didn't know who his dad was. But knew he was crew from a passing ship. Luke Skywalker didn't know his parents. And was an orphan raised by his aunt and uncle. Zuko is autistic. Come on. His entire backstory happened because he misunderstood a social situation. He wasn't as good as his sister because of reduced motor coordination. He hyperfixated on honor. He had to practice conversations before he had them. You cannot look at me and tell me this man is neurotypical. His entire backstory happened because he misunderstood a social situation. He didn't misunderstood anything. They were going to sacrifice a bunch of soldiers and he was against it. That Boba Fett never died in the Sarlacc pit. God bless you, Jon Favreau. Some POC registered Simon evolutions were mismatched. Magikarp should have evolved into Dragonite. While Dragonair should have evolved into Gyarados. And the names of Psyduck and Golduck were switched. So Venonat, Butterfree. Caterpie, Venomoth. And Golduck, Psyduck I believe. But Magikarp, Gyarados is correct. It's based on a myth where a carp goes over a waterfall and turns into a serpent. Edit. Obi-Wan. Just like many other Star Wars characters. Is racist against droids. At least in his youth. In A New Hope. The cantina owner gruffly yells about no droids. The first of many such derogatory statements. It's a common enough belief that restaurants often refuse entry to droids. Attack of the Clones has a similar event, I believe. Obi-Wan uses demeaning commentary about droids. Flying is for droids. Implying that it's a lowly job for a lowly class of person. R4 is ripped apart in front of his very eyes by buzz droids. Not even a moment of sadness from Obi-Wan. Imagine R2-D2 being decapitated in front of Anakin. A clear droid sympathizer. He doesn't even remember R2 in A New Hope. Despite being by his side for many adventures. He's not outright rude to him here. But to not remember him at all? Very interesting indeed. Rick believes in God because Dan is his god. He knows his purpose is to entertain. Or else. The trolls in Frozen used magic to make Hans turn on Anna so Kristoff could have her. 1. Hans never really shows any signs of evil before the reveal. He even has that dumb smitten smile after meeting Anna. 2. So she's a bit of a fixer-upper. That's a minor thing. And get the fiancé out of the way and the whole thing will be fixed. 3. If his plan was always really as he said. He risks everything by letting Anna go after Elsa alone. Without really even trying to either stop her or go with her. 4. He instructs his guards to make sure no harm comes to Elsa when they go to her palace. He should want her to die in the conflict. Way less messy than bringing her back and trying to have her executed while still marrying Anna. It makes too much sense. Ditto our failed new clones. Courage the dog is exaggerating normal occurrences into scary things cause he is a dog. At the end of the thing. MacReady has gasoline and the whiskey bottle. He made all the bottles into Molotov cocktails. He knew he was going to die with the thing. Or likely from it. So there was no reason for him to save an entire bottle of just whiskey on his person when that could have been another weapon. At the end. He offers the bottle to Childs. Who drinks it as if nothing was wrong. The thing wouldn't know what whiskey tastes like. And reveals Childs as being replaced. MacReady even gives a smirk after he drinks from the bottle. This one came to my mind. Ben 10, 2005, and its sequels actually take place in different universes due to their different animation styles. Varric lied or exaggerated more about the A2 than has been confirmed so far. It explained so much. Story beats that don't make sense. Character inconsistencies. Tylee is a non-bender descendant of air nomads. Droids and Star Wars were reprogrammed to feel pain after the Clone Wars. In the prequels droids were injured all the time without issue. Even ones not meant for war. C-3PO was decapitated, for example. But in the original trilogy, droids can clearly feel pain, fear, even tortured by Jabba. And C-3PO is often terrified of being injured. The only way to get into Gryffindor is to want to get into Gryffindor. All the other houses are specific trays, where Gryffindor is primarily about bravery. The bravery you need to get in is the bravery to want to be in Gryffindor. Also adds up with Harry being Slytherin Y, Hermione and McGonagall being Ravenclaw Y, and Ron and, if you ask me, Dumbledore being Hufflepuff Y. If anyone is a natural born Gryffindor that we see, it's Cedric. And he's a Hufflepuff. Aaron isn't done yet. Harry Potter and the Cursed Child is an in-universe work of alternative timeline metafiction by Rita Skeeter. The book is so terrible, and it's canon, according to JKR, that this is the only way I can make it fit in my head. Generally, I don't accept it as canon, whatever JKR says to the contrary. The books and the universe ended at Deathly Hallows. That South Park is being told by Butters in a therapy session. The thriller movie S7N is set in Gotham City. From the corrupt police and dark, grimy streets to the murderer with an oddly specific and performative MO. Just feels right. The atmosphere of constant, distant sirens and dark mysteries lurking around every corner is just dead on. Additionally, they never mention the city by name in the movie. Lewis was the giant Ant-Man in Avengers Endgame. Toby was the Scranton Strangler the whole time.